I was trained on Tiger Moths and Harvards and selected as a fighter pilot, and I did my first tour on Seafires, which was a Spitfire with a hook on, of course, in Carrier Ocean and Triumph. And when I'd done that tour and a little bit more flying, I went off to the Central Flying School to become a flying instructor. And at the end of that, the Air Force asked if I would become an instructor for 2 years on jets, which is a very new thing at that time. So I went to the first jet training school in 1949 and instructed there for 2 years on Meteors. I got 1,000 hours in Meteors flying. And after that, after one or two other appointments, I became a CEO of a Seahawk Squadron. Last carrier was Ark Royal. And then at the age of 36, with my family, I took the opportunity to have another career outside the Navy, which was in many ways a disappointment because I missed the flying. Well, a Seafire was a nice aircraft to fly, but it wasn't designed for deck landing, so it was rather more difficult. The engine in front meant that as you were coming into the carrier, you couldn't see the carrier unless you were on a turn to the very last moment. And even then you had to stick your head over the side. Of course, you had the batsman to begin with who would bat us in. And then there were 3 inventions that made everything much more simple. The mirror was designed, so all you had to do was keep the light in the middle of the mirror and just fly down that light until your hook caught. The angled deck meant that if for any reason you didn't catch a wire, you didn't fly into all the aircraft in the deck park and you just went round again. The jets that came along were landing rather faster, of course, but the great advantage was that it was a tricycle undercarriage, so if you landed a bit heavy you didn't bounce in the air again. And of course the angled deck and the mirror made it easy. And the great thing was that you could settle down and you would come straight in behind the carrier because you could see ahead. And in my view, the jets were much easier to land on carriers than those earlier fighter aircraft. When I was first in the Navy, it was the aircraft in the Navy that was most used, I think, for carrier flying. Very old-fashioned, but it did a lot of damage. I think it was the most cost-effective aircraft in World War II. It sank the Italian fleet, etc., etc. But there was only one left in the 1950s, and so only special people were allowed to fly it. And I've got a picture of myself formating alongside a helicopter. Well, I think the helicopter was formating alongside me, I think, yes.